Operations, she's our town manager, and Department Administration, while our town council provides direction and authorizes policy in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia and our town charter. While each council member has the ultimate responsibility to contribute and vote distinctly, the council does work as a body, duly elected to serve responsibly and ethically the citizens of Colonial Beach. Participation of each member contributes to effective leadership, and collaboration is key to productivity in local government. Let's engage in constructive discussion, remain open to different perspectives, and work together for effective resolutions. And finally, I remind us all that the meetings of the Town Council are formal proceedings and are recorded. And with that, I call the Colonial Beach work session to order, the Town Council work session to order at, I got 6:02 p.m. First up is our roll call of members. All members are present. I don't have any additions to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Any nays? Okay. All right, next up is our consent agenda. There are several minutes on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second to that? Okay, is there any discussion on the minutes on the consent agenda? Yes, Mr. Williams?
Just a question. Is this the last of 2023 minutes? Okay. One more? Okay, thank you.
Oh, I have August 16th, September 6th, and September 20th. Is that correct? That's what I have. Okay? Great. Okay. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Moving forward, we have council member liaison and commission reports, and I am going to start to my right with Mr. Wood first.
Good evening, everyone. Couple of fairly brief announcements. Officer Chris Porosky was successful in earning his certification as a drug recognition expert. Earning the certification is very difficult. It requires advanced study of physiology and the effects that drugs have on the body. Officer Porosky will be able to conduct detailed evaluations when drivers suspected of driving while under the influence of drugs and alcohol, which will help keep our roads safe. Congratulations to Officer Porosky. And the Planning Commission. At the June 12th meeting, Commission will hold a work session to parking standards of the zoning ordinance, specifically amendments that were proposed in 2024. The deadline, and this is important, the deadline to renew short-term rental permits for the 2025-26 permit year was May 1st. We've issued 110 short-term rental permits. There are still approximately 28 individuals who operated a short-term rental in 24-25 who've not renewed their permits. Staff has been contacting them to advise they are late. The STRs must have an STR permit and a current business license to operate. Please take care of your permits now. Staff will be issuing notices of violation to those who are not in compliance. Thank you.
Mr. Larson?
All right. For the Finance Department real estate taxes, the bills are due tomorrow, and penalties and interest will apply the following day on Friday. So we'll get them in. Utility bills are in the mail and due on July the 1st. For those of you, if you pay through your bank the way I do, the amount of the bill has changed. It's now $385.86 per quarter. I just went in today and updated mine from the previous number, so I don't get penalized for the $25 difference. And the penalty and interest will be applied to delinquent bills, utility bills on August the 1st. Vehicle registration. If you have registered a new vehicle or you have changed your license number, you need to contact the Finance Department to get your information updated in our parking system so you don't get a parking ticket. And if it's the first time you've registered and you did taxes in 2024 on that vehicle, there'll be a $30 charge for this first year. The Finance Department wants you to know that e-billing is available for both real estate taxes and utility bills. Contact them to get that set up if you're interested. And then if you're experiencing financial difficulties, please reach out to the Finance Department to arrange payment options. They will be flexible with you as they are able. One NGO update, I've mentioned this a couple of meetings in a row now. The Colonial Beach Community Foundation has a meetup a week from today at 6 o'clock at the, what's it called, Creative Arts Center, which is the building just up Washington from where we are right now. And Natasha Ducker will be their featured speaker that night. And that's all I have.
Mr. Williams?
I don't have anything for the schools. We haven't had any meetings since our last meeting, so I'll give it an update at the next meeting.
Ms. Grandstaff?
The EDC has not had a meeting since our last town council meeting. The next one will be in June, and that will be on the 10th, where they will focus on parking. That's it.
Ms. Sanford?
Our PrAC meeting that was supposed to happen last night was canceled, I guess because there was not a quorum. But I do have a few events coming up. There's the Friday, June 13th, there's a coffee walk at 8 a.m. starting at Colonial Buzz. Of course, there's the Potomac River Festival, starting Friday through Sunday, June 13th through the 15th. Friday night, there will be the Fire and Rescue Parade starting at 7:30 to kick off the festival. And then after the parade, there'll be the Miss Colonial Beach pageant, which will be following the same route as the Fire and Rescue Parade. From 12 to 4, there'll be a kids zone on Town Hill with bounce houses and bubbles. 2 p.m., there will be a pet parade on Town Hill stage. And then, of course, there will be the fest, which will be happening off of the town pier after dark. And then Sunday on June 15th, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., there will be the Father's Day car show. And then at 1 p.m., there will be the Colonial Beach Yacht Center's annual boat parade on the Potomac. And then just a reminder, since it is our summer season, that dogs are no longer permitted on the beach or boardwalk now until September 30th. That's all I have.
Mr. Allison?
Good evening, everybody. Public Works Liaison. Just a couple items that the Public Works has handled this week, or at least the past 2 weeks. The one utility installation, we had 6 water leaks, 8 sewer backups, continued cutting up sight lines and right-of-ways throughout town, filling of potholes, and holiday light and memorial banners put up. That's all I have this evening.
Great, thank you. So a few updates. With the ComRel, the Community Relations Board with our military partners was earlier this week, where Natasha Tucker, our town manager, introduced our assistant town manager, Kyla Brower. And there will be a changing of the guard. A new CO will be coming to the base. So Colonial Beach is the host of the next one of these community meetings in August or September. We haven't set a firm date yet, but that will also be the introduction of the new base commander. Save the Bay Day is this Saturday. I welcome all volunteers to come down to the marina by Dockside at the very last dock. Register, it's free. You get bags and gloves and assigned an area in town, and then everybody cleans up trash and comes back, and there's free lunch and a free t-shirt. And this year we will be joined by Congressman Rob Whitman. And then on Sunday, there is the grand opening of the Sandlot at the Colonial Beach Community Center. This is the rejuvenation of an old t-ball field that had been pretty derelict and has now had a completely new revamp. And so 2 t-ball teams from the Westmoreland Little League will be playing each other, and both teams are full of Colonial Beach kids. So come out at 2 o'clock on Sunday and support some of our local kids in playing the very first game at the t-ball field at the Colonial Beach Community Center, which is 717 Marshall Avenue if you haven't been there before. Also, I want to say kudos to Parks and Rec for the community yard sale. It was a hesitation with rain or no rain, but went ahead, and it actually turned out to be a great morning and a great day, and lots of people out and about for it. And also a big thank you to the American Legion for the Memorial Day service. Keynote speaker was Master Chief Angel Avales. I'm not sure if I pronounced his last name right. Anyway, he's a great guest speaker, and it was a very nice Memorial Day service. I also have a note from the town manager that says, I guess there is some flutter about the beetles. Tweedle beetles, Seuss rhyme. But there are beetles on the beach. They are normal when they appear in large quantities. It's their season. They are feeding or mating. This is a normal part of our environment. They do not bite, and they are not a threat to humans. So if you do see beetles on the beach, it's okay. I think it will just naturally handle itself. And that's all I have.
Madam Mayor, may I ask
Yeah.
Mr. Schaefer a question that's directly related to something?
Sure, right, go ahead.
Mr. Schaefer, on the, perhaps you know this, perhaps you don't, but I'm also one of the folks that does the automatic payments. Are we going to need to update the amount of the payments, or is that going to just happen automatically?
No, you will need to update your amount.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are we going to send a notice out to people about that? Or I guess their regular bill will say it?
Yes, ma'am, their bill does state what is due.
Okay.
It doesn't break it down what it's due per month, but their bill does state what is due.
Right. Okay, well, I'm sure we can create some notification too on Facebook.
Yes, we'll
and-
create a notification and send that out.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, next up, I don't have any presentations for today, so we're going to keep moving forward to public comment. This is general public comment first. Okay, well, hold on. I'm not, Nigel, I'm gonna still read my first initial public comment, even though I know you know the rounds about this and what to do, okay? So during all public comments or hearings, we ask that certain guidelines be followed. Please stand at the podium, and for the record, please state your name and address. If you want to be contacted, please provide your contact information to the clerk. Make your comments to the council as a whole. Be brief, state your position, provide facts, and you may provide written statements or supportive materials to the clerk for distribution to the council and the town manager. We do not debate, but we do follow up on comments provided by the town manager. Speak clearly, as we do want to hear what you have to say, and the council will try to hear everyone who wishes to speak on a subject, and comments are limited to 5 minutes. Time cannot be transferred to another speaker. If you represent a group, you may wish to identify other members of your group who are in attendance. And after public comment is closed, I encourage you to stay as the council engages in dialogue and deliberation on each item. And welcome, Nigel, to the podium.
Nigel Long, 115 Lynhaven Court. This is just very brief, and it's in anticipation of the Finance Department presentation about monthly billing. I just wasn't clear from what I was able to read from the agenda. I'm assuming that monthly billing pushes back the date on which the town receives the funds that they get. You will not be, I assume, you'll not be asking for the payments to be made in advance and accumulate to the total amount owed by the date due. I'm assuming that you would move the billing to monthly, so that it actually pushes back the dates on which people have to make their payments. But I wasn't entirely clear about that from what I read in the excellent PDF that we're all going to see in a minute, in terms of how that timing works. Obviously, one is a benefit to us taxpayers and residents of the beach. The only challenge is if we were a commercial enterprise, we would be concerned about the reduction in cash flow that would impact. So I think it might be interesting for the councillors to understand those things when it comes your opportunity to discuss the presentation. And I would say I came prepared, and you know what that's about. That would be a Freedom of Information Act request to find out what I was showing him. Thank you.
Okay.
It was a
Sounds
joke.
good. Okay. Would anybody else like to speak? Even if you didn't sign up, it's okay. You can still come up. Okay. All right,
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know it's Will Knuckles. He had sent emails in, and I know we don't address them here, but I just wanted to allude to what he sent to Heather. He reached out to me and asked if we will review what he has sent in, and he has been waiting for more than 7 days. I've seen Heather's email, but I told him I would still allude to that and address it and have it taken from there. So that's all I wanted to say while we were on public comment.
okay,
Thank you.
yep. Anything else? Okay. All right, we'll close that public comment and move forward to the public hearing. So our public hearing tonight is about the lease agreements for dock and pier constructions on town property. Paul, would you like to
Yeah,
introduce it, and then
Yes.
we'll open the public hearing?
to give you a little bit of history, you've seen several memos about this, and they're included in the package. The town over the years has had leases for the property where the piers and docks are. And the first question was, how long the lease should be. In Virginia, if it's longer than 5 years, then you open it up to everybody. So you could have a situation where somebody had a house, and right in front of their house, there's a place for a pier, and somebody else outbid them for that place for a pier. So to avoid that situation, I'm suggesting that, as in the past, that they be for 5 years. Now, years ago, maybe 25 years ago, we did have the bidding thing, and some people agreed to long-term shoreline maintenance in return for having piers. But I think in that situation, the ones I'm aware of, they were connected to the houses. It happened to be. So that's the basis for the term. The last lease that was approved by council was in 2019, and I based the new draft lease off of that and made some changes to it. One of the key things to address is the shoreline maintenance. There were some questions about that. The last lease said that a person can be responsible for shoreline maintenance, and if so, the responsibility and what they're supposed to do is set out in Exhibit B. I don't know if there were ever any Exhibit Bs attached to the leases. But this time around, and I sent some of this in the last draft to you, that if the town determines that there's a material risk to erosion on the shoreline, the town can require that the lessee do some shoreline maintenance. And if so, that all has to be set out in Exhibit B before the lease is signed by everybody. I had one person question me, well, what if they change Exhibit B later? I said they can't do that, so to clarify that. I had we had some emails from the Gasterlands, and I addressed those, but there was a question about whether this applies to new leases or, new piers or existing piers. And I think it always applied to existing piers. The title was just worded oddly, so I changed that in the draft. The most recent email from the Gasterlands was that Colonial Beach benefits from the real estate tax assessment that the piers included in the assessment, and by charging separately for the lease itself, why isn't that a double tax? Well, one's clearly a tax and one's a lease like anybody else would enter into a lease. Just they tax the dock as under real property. I guess it's a leasehold interest. I don't know what their justification is, but we aren't taxing people doubly. And then another question was, well, it's really 4.5, not a 5, and that's not the case. Whenever the lease starts, it's 5 years from that date, but you pay front, and then January 1st of each year, you pay that same fee. So you may have to pay the same fee in a month, or maybe 11 months, 12 months. But anyway, that's to keep it on January 1st billing cycle. So my suggestion tonight is that the town council adopt the lease in the format that I set out in the emails this afternoon, which just had some clarifications of what you've seen before and what was published. And Mr. Brower will, when I'm done, he'll have a suggestion for the new lease amount on the property. And so that we pass the new lease with his suggested new lease amount. And the new lease is a 5-year lease. So I'd be glad to answer any questions, or if you want to begin the public hearing first.
Do you want to go ahead and introduce whatever information you
Yeah,
have
Mr.
about them?
Bauer,
And
yeah.
then we'll do the public
Right.
hearing. That way we can hear if
Right.
anybody's here to speak about that. And then we can open it up for discussion.
Mayor and council, thank you. We have 2 recommendations to change the pier lease when it comes to a financial difference. The first is moving from a late fee percentage from 5 to 10%. And so we would collect more on a percentage basis for late fees. The second would be moving the total lease amount. The last 5 years, from 2019 till 2025 till now, was $1,250 over 5 years, right? We're requesting or recommending that we change that amount to $2,000, so that would be a $150 difference a year, which is also the same amount we changed from 2014 to the 2019 lease agreement. We also raised $150 a year back then. So we are recommending doing the same thing this go-around.
Okay. All right, well, with that information, we'll open the public hearing. I have 6:23 PM for the record, and is there anyone, same rules apply as the last public hearing? Is there anybody who would like to speak? Nobody signed up? Anybody? Okay. All right, I will close the public hearing at 6:24 PM. And we can open this up for discussion. We can take action tonight, but we can also defer action to the regular meeting, which is sort of my preference in general, to take action at the regular meeting. But I welcome any discussion that you have about. Yes, Ms. Williams?
Yeah, first off, I do agree to move the actual vote to the next meeting, just to give citizens one last chance to give us some more feedback if they haven't. I've gotten some constituents that, out in public speak about it, but none of them, or only a couple people wrote in, and nobody obviously came tonight. One of the things a constituent brought up, which Mr. Duggan had mentioned, is that the special leases. And I guess I wanted to get some clarification on those. I guess they're not leases, they're agreements with the town. And you said that about 20 or 25 years ago, which one of the constituents I talked to owns a property on Monroe Bay Avenue, and they said that they did that agreement, which was like 40-year agreement, and they agreed to basically put in riprap and basically restore their shoreline. He said that some of the shorelines on other sides of him are actually falling in and approaching the road. So I don't know if something council might want to consider as ways to encourage that. I'm not sure 5-year leases do that. He said there was actually a peer committee, I guess, back then, 20 years ago or however long it was. There was an actual committee. He said only about, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 11 homeowners actually took the town up on the offer to do the long-term agreement.
I think Mr. Brower may have that figure, I'm not sure.
Yeah, according to the records I have, we had about 7.
7, okay. And so you said that when we advertised that, like, anybody could bid on somebody's property?
Well, that's the way it's worded now. I don't know how it was
Yeah.
worded back then in the code.
Is that the Virginia code? So
Yeah.
we couldn't actually do this going forward without maybe people losing the ability to put a
Right.
pier in front of their house? Okay, so that's good to know. But I'm assuming that those people that signed those 40-year agreements are still
Those should still be good.
legally binding agreements? Okay. The only other thing, same constituent, he has that long-term agreement, so it doesn't really apply to him, he said, but had a concern about this 60% increase. I know you said it was 5 years ago, it's 60%, and then 5 years later, another suggested 60%. I'm not sure where the town's coming up with that number. Do you have a reason why 60%? And is it applied to any other town real estate assets, leases, or is this unique only for waterfront or water view people?
So you're talking about the 5-year amount,
Yeah,
correct?
the
Okay.
60%.
So we came up with that number 2 different ways. One, I did just today, went and looked, and that's the difference we paid 2014 to 2019. As part of my research, I also went, there's no true apples to apples comparison, right? So I'm trying to find apples to oranges. And so I went to boat slips. I went to 8 different locations. What would be the cost of a single boat slip, the smallest one that there was, to see what you would pay if you were to have a boat slip? Now, I know they're not comparable at all, but just to get a baseline, what would that look like? And so I went to 8 different locations, 2 here in Colonial Beach, and then others just along the riverfront. And the average of those came out to about $3,800 a year. So over 5 years, you're looking at $11,000. And so while you have to put in upfront costs for the piers itself, right, you're putting in that infrastructure yourself. When we looked at, what would be fair for the pier lease, we essentially said, well, over 5 years, you're going to pay what you would in a year, right, if you had a boat slip. So that was another statistical data point that we used. But the council can say whatever price you want to put on those. It's your
Okay.
obligation.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. That helps a little bit of understanding. I can't really think, my main thing is I'm just a little bit concerned about the price, obviously, and the fact that they already pay taxes on the price of or the value of the pier itself, that basically anytime your or my taxes go up, their taxes go up on their piers because of the new real estate rates or the increased values. I think that's about all I have for now. If anybody else has anything?
Go ahead. I do like Mr. Williams' point about doing some sort of incentive to have the homeowner take over doing some sort of shoreline management. I know that that's a big issue over on Monroe Bay Avenue. Would that be something that we could look into?
Well, the way the lease is drafted now, I mean, if the town determines that there's a likelihood of material erosion, the environment is part of the lease. Any place that it sees there's a danger of that, it can do that as a requirement, and do that as Exhibit B.
So on that train of thought, would we want to do a quick check before we signed a lease with somebody
yeah.
about what that was like?
Yeah, I mean, the town should make that determination before the lease is entered into.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I have to agree, I think the shoreline erosion, and I understand that's a very expensive thing to do, but it's to their benefit, right? I mean, they are the ones requesting private use of public property, and they're the ones benefiting of, an additional asset that would not be provided to them because they don't actually own waterfront. They're piggybacking and asking, to utilize the town public property to do that. So I think it's would be good to have some buy-in that you're also going to maintain it since you're the one that wants to use it. So having an evaluation of that seems reasonable to me.
No,
Yeah.
I wanted to also say that that does have some relevance because leasing is renting, and if it's something that you feel strongly about, you should be encouraged to upkeep that as well because you don't outright own it, and then it goes on to somebody else. So I think if we can have some kind of, I don't know if the language is already binding in there, but something that does speak to that would be helpful. So
Does-
that when they do move on or they should go, at least you're leaving it in pretty safe and good condition.
Yeah, a little bit better than you found it. Is there an inspection incorporated with the lease agreement? Is that part of the process?
Well, it could be. I mean, I think it's implied by that you have an inspection because you make the determination as to whether Exhibit B applies, but I could add some language if there'd be an inspection. I think this was, the way I drafted it was sort of intended as a compromise, because I thought that if you had everybody responsible for shoreline maintenance, you would have an uprising. And but if that's what you want to do, that's going to be very expensive.
I think it's just a discussion right now. I saw Mr. Wood's hand, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, the other danger of having everybody responsible for shoreline maintenance is it's done properly, right?